3 division winners, 3 wild card teams, 6 playoff teams in total. The Phillies have to be amongst them, right? Well, I do believe so, but will they win the National League East? Let's talk about it next right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli here, and it is opening day across Major League Baseball. And of course, we would not leave you out of the offseason without making our official PHLY predictions for the National League and the American League. We're going to start with the National League. Where do the Phillies fall within the National League ranking? Let's go to the NL East. We're not going to waste any time in our predictions. Who wins the National League East? I think it's going to be the Atlanta Braves. After a historic 2023 offensive season, a year in which they scored almost 6 runs per game at 5.85 runs per game, the Braves got hit pretty hard with the injury bug. In fact, through early September, the last time I saw it calculated, the Braves had lost over 1,500 games played from their starters due to injury. I mean, you just name them, right? You name the players that were hurt over the course of the 2024 season. Strider, Acuna, Albies, Murphy, Riley, all of those guys missed substantial time. In fact, Ronald Acuna, the MVP of the 2023 season, only played 49 games. Ozzie Albies played less than 100. Michael Harris and Austin Riley each only played 110 games themselves. They had to rely on 100-plus games from Adam Duvall, who hit 182. Whit Merrifield was important for them down the stretch. The point is, the Braves missed a lot of time and a lot of manpower due to injury. And despite all of that, they still won 89 games and secured a wild card spot. Now, they did get bounced in 2 by the San Diego Padres, and it was a quick exit for the Braves. But the fact that they sustained all of those injuries and had an offensive regression from being one of the best offensive teams ever in 2023 makes me believe that they'll kind of round back into form in 2025. Now that they're healthy-ish and expect to get Acuna and Strider back sometime in the foreseeable future, if you put all of this together and you add in a rotation that features the reigning Cy Young winner and reigning Triple Crown winner in Chris Sale, Reynaldo Lopez, who had an excellent first year with the Braves, and the guy that I think puts this whole rotation together in Spencer Schwellenbach, you can kind of mitigate the loss of Max Fried a little bit when all of these guys are healthy and back to pitching. It's a 4-man rotation that I think is going to have a lot of success. I think this team is primed for a bounce-back year, and I do think they win somewhere in the mid-90s, 95 or 96 games, and capture the National League East division title for the second time in 3 years. Where does that leave the Phillies? Well, we'll get to that in just a second, because let's go to the National League Central next. And this is a division that I have said on record many times I don't like. I think it stinks. Any team, with the exception of probably the St. Louis Cardinals, could win this division. But who wins the National League Central, in my opinion? It's the Chicago Cubs. I really don't like this division, but I think the Cubs are the best team this year, but I also know that Milwaukee overperforms each and every year and have a really good manager in Pat Murphy. Maybe this is the year that I finally get the Reds breakout that I've been looking for each of the last couple of seasons, but I'm going to take the Chicago Cubs because of the known quantities that are on their roster. Let's start with Kyle Tucker. They make the trade with the Houston Astros to acquire Kyle Tucker. He's in the final year of his arbitration. He's going to be playing for a huge contract extension at some point, either in the middle of the season or in the offseason in 2026. Regardless of when he signs a contract extension, or if he signs a contract extension with the Chicago Cubs, he buoys that offense to new heights in 2025. They also added Ryan Presley to be the team's closer, but I think the guy in the bullpen that I'm most looking forward to seeing is Eli Morgan for a full season with the Cubs. The Cubs got Morgan from Cleveland last year after he posted a 1.93 ERA and a sub-1 whip last season. Now, the Cubs had an adequate bullpen last year, but they issued far too many walks in towards the middle of the season, ended up having a Hector Neris problem, and it's why they ended up releasing him midway through the summer. But I do expect this bullpen to be better in 2025 than it is in 2024. Caleb Thielbar also joins the team as well. I think this is going to be a more well-rounded bullpen. I also think it's a starting rotation that just has a high floor. It may not have excellence. Justin Steele could be excellent, as could Shota Imanaga, but it's a bunch of guys who don't throw particularly hard, but throw a ton of strikes and know how to get outs. I think they're going to give you baseline success in 2025. So we'll see what happens with the Kyle Tucker situation as this season unfolds. But I think immediately this is a team that's much better than it was in 2024. I'm going to take the Cubs to win the Central. Now, the National League West, we don't have to spend too much time on. I think everybody is going to take the LA Dodgers. They're the deepest roster in baseball and somehow got better in the 2025 offseason. Their starting pitching depth was tested a ton last year due to injuries. Yoshinobu Yamamoto missed a ton of time. Shohei Ohtani, of course, didn't pitch at all last year. Tyler Glasnow missed time. Dustin May, Bobby Miller, Tony Gonsolin, all of those guys missed either extended periods of time or the entirety of the 2024 season. So their depth is going to be better just by getting healthy. And of course, they added Roki Sasaki in the offseason and Blake Snell in the offseason as well. And of course, Shohei Ohtani will return to the mound at some point in 2025. You pair that with a healthy Yamamoto and a healthy Glasnow to start the season, and you have what I believe to be one of the three best rotations in all of baseball. Listen, they've spent like $7 billion in the last couple of seasons, and they're the odds-on heavy favorites to not only win the West, to not only win the National League, but to win the World Series, and it makes sense. They are the best and deepest team in baseball. Let's go to the next part, because this is where the Phillies find themselves. Do the Phillies make a wild card spot? Yeah, I think they're going to. They're too good not to. Which one? I actually think the Phillies end up earning the top wild card spot in the National League. Now, I made a bold prediction early in the year that the Arizona Diamondbacks claim that spot and get close to 100 wins, but that's a bold prediction. That's when you try to step outside your comfort zone a little bit. I think the Phillies are the better of the two teams. I'm going to take the Phils as the top wild card spot in the National League. They added Jesus Luzardo this offseason in what feels like it was kind of a shrewd move by Dave Dombrowski in the front office, especially if he can get healthy and get back to pitching the way that he did in 2023. Now we know that Ranger Suarez is going to start the year on the IL. He's also an impending free agent this offseason. Is this the final year of Ranger Suarez and Phillies pinstripes? Certainly possible. So adding Luzardo, a guy who's under team control for another season after this one, ends up being a really good move. Outside of that, it was a pretty quiet offseason for the Phillies, and I understand that expectations of running it back have kind of drained some fans of their excitement, but this is still a good team. Now, one thing we know for certain is that chase rates need to come down across the board, but the offensive productivity can certainly be there when the Phillies are at their peak. The bullpen is definitely more of a question mark than it's been in years past. A healthy Jose Alvarado plus a healthy Jordan Romano will go a long way to stabilizing this bullpen and making it a good one in 2025. Does Jordan Romano bounce back from elbow injuries? I don't know. Does Jose Alvarado bounce back from a rough 2024? Also, don't know the answer to that question either. If you're asking me which one I think has the more likely chance of happening, I will take a bounce back year from Jose Alvarado, but I do think it's a good enough bullpen with Orion Kerkering and when Matt Strahm returns to still stabilize the back end of the bullpen. This is going to be a good team. I think they win 92 games, and I have them as the number one wildcard team in the National League. The second wildcard team belongs to the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think one of the best offenses in all of baseball last year. The problem was they were also one of the worst pitching staffs across all of baseball last season. So they addressed it a little bit, or a lot of it in their starting rotation case, by adding Corbin Burnes to a long-term extension. Plus, I expect a little bit of a bounce-back season from guys like Merrill Kelly and Brandon Pfaadt. So the bullpen is the point of emphasis in which it could theoretically still get better. I think there could still be a move to be made. It probably gets made closer to the deadline. But Justin Martinez is a guy to keep an eye on as a potential all-star type closer. He throws gas. He has some control problems, but if he gets them under control a little bit, no pun intended, I think he could be a legit back end of the bullpen type of guy. Now, their offense loses Christian Walker to the Houston Astros, and all they do is go out and trade for Josh Naylor, who hit more home runs and drove in more runs than Christian Walker did last season. I still think Ketel Marte is a stud, and I think you get a much more consistent year from Corbin Carroll than you did in the first half of 2024. I think the Diamondbacks are poised for a return to the postseason and could be a very dangerous team come postseason time. I'm going to take them to be the number 2 wildcard team. The number 3 wildcard team, in my opinion, is the New York Mets. They spent a ton of money this season, specifically on Juan Soto. He immediately makes an already good lineup even better. Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso is a vicious trio at the top of your lineup, and I think Mark Vientos is going to add to what was an excellent season to his credit last year, where he hit 27 home runs in just 111 games played. I think this lineup is going to be super competitive. What leaves a little bit to be desired is the starting rotation. Now, Luis Severino signed with the A's, and they didn't bring in any of the top-end starters that they were rumored to be in play for, like a Max Fried or Corbin Burns, but they did bring Sean Manaea back, although he will start the season on the IL. Kodai Senga is a stud to me. I think that forkball is one of the best pitches in all of baseball, but is an injured Manaea plus Tyler McGill and converted closer Clay Holmes enough to be a top-of-the-line rotation? I don't think so. I think it leaves a little bit to be desired for me. Can this offense and what the rotation is buoy them enough to keep them afloat until Sean Manaea comes back? And then what I expect to happen is they make a move closer to the deadline to bolster the middle of the rotation. The offense is so darn good, I think, especially at the top 4 or 5, that they're going to compete all the way through into the postseason. So I think the 3 wildcard teams will be the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, and the Mets. Division winners, the Braves, the Cubs, and the LA Dodgers. Now, who wins the National League? Maybe this is a cheap way out. Maybe this is just taking the favorites. The Dodgers are just too darn good. I'm going to take the Dodgers to go back to the World Series, and I think there's a really realistic chance that they repeat as World Series champions. We'll get to that as the season unfolds, but I'm going to take the LA Dodgers to win the National League for the 2nd consecutive time. Where do the Phillies falter? I'm going to say the Phillies end up bowing out in the NLDS for the 2nd consecutive year. Whether they end up losing to the Atlanta Braves or the LA Dodgers, I think that's the team, one of the 2 teams that they're going to end up losing to because I think they're the 2 teams that will play for the NLCS. So the Phillies end up losing in the DS, and I'll take the Dodgers to not only go to the World Series, but to win the World Series again. And that's our look at the National League for the 2025 season. We'll take a look at the American League later in the week and maybe into next week as we get set for opening day, which is just a few hours away from Nationals Park, as we will bring you all of the action throughout the year right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast.